It's news day. Today we've got news from Qualcomm and Bose and some spicy news from KZ. So let's get into it. This is a roundup of the stories that I found interesting this week, or at least stories that I thought that you might find interesting or useful to know about. I'm trying to post a video like this every week as long as there's something interesting to talk about. And if you want to see the other videos in this series, I'll link the playlist up here. And obviously a subscription to the channel that will make sure that you don't miss out on any future videos like this or any review content that I have coming up. And with all that said, let's get on with the news. So before we get on to our main story, we've got a couple of updates to talk about. Firstly, Qualcomm held their Snapdragon Summit a few days ago, where they announced all of the new things that are coming to Qualcomm technologies. That includes their new S5 and S3 Gen 2 audio SoCs that feature improvements to efficiency, latency, spatial audio, and lossless quality Bluetooth codecs, which is really cool. Also announced during this keynote were some updates bringing APTX adaptive codec support to the Bose QuietComfort Earbuds 2. Now these were released back in September 2022, and they're a true wireless pair of earphones with active noise cancellation. They operate using a Qualcomm S5 audio chip, and they launch with just SBC and AAC codec support. And now they're going to be getting an addition of the APTX adaptive codec by means of a firmware update. This is going to be great news for all of those people running Android devices, as APTX tends to work much better than AAC on Android devices. And of course, APTX is a far superior codec to SBC. APTX lossless, however, won't be coming to the QuietComfort Earbuds 2, however, as that looks like it will need an upgrade to the chipset on board, but perhaps we're going to be seeing a QuietComfort Earbuds 3 at some point within the next year. Obviously, we're going to have to wait and see for that. So this APTX adaptive firmware update for the QuietComfort Earbuds 2 is said to be launching some point in spring 2023. Now, staying with Bose, they also quietly released a new over-ear noise-cancelling headphone, the QuietComfort SE. Now, I wasn't able to find any official sources for this info. This story came via GSM Arena, who reported the QuietComfort SE as having the same specs and design as last year's QC45, which replaced the older QC35-2s. Now, according to GSM Arena, the QC SE is available from select retailers in the US. Now, I did some searching and found this headphone listed as the QuietComfort 45 SE on the retailer John Lewis in the UK. And this one has a price tag of £199.95, which is a saving of £60 roughly over the original QC45. And from what I can tell, it simply is a special edition version of the QC45. The only difference really being that you're getting a soft carry case with the QuietComfort SE, whereas you had a hard shell carrying case with the QuietComfort 45. Also, it seems like they're only coming in one colorway, which is black, as opposed to the smoke white, midnight blue, and eclipse grey colorways that you had with the QC45. Apart from this, they appear to be the exact same headphone. Okay, so before I get on to the main story for this video, if you like what I'm doing, then I'd really appreciate it if you drop a like on this video. It actually helps out the channel more than you may realize. And while you're down there, why don't you comment and tell me if you're excited for the prospect of lossless Bluetooth audio finally. It's about time, right? KZ earphones have released a couple of new products for those who haven't totally given up on KZ after the whole fake driver fiasco. And yes, let's get this out of the way first. I'm going to be saying KZ, and I might occasionally accidentally say KZ because I spend too much time on the internet, but as I am British, I do say Z, usually. And if you weren't aware of this, the KZ drama that went on, KZ got called out for selling earphones that were supposedly multi-driver earphones where some of the drivers just didn't do anything. I'm not going to go into an awful lot of detail with that particular story because that one has been covered ad nauseum online, but people haven't been happy with KZ, and KZ have been a little bit salty as of late, and we will be getting into that. But first up from KZ, Now this one is actually a little bit more high-end for KZ, who are most well-known probably for their budget-end earphones. This one is the PR1 Pro, which is an upgrade to their previous PR1. They have at least managed to rein in the passive aggressiveness for the product blurb for this, allowing themselves perhaps a little bit of a self-congratulatory swagger for designing this driver themselves from the ground up. But regardless, the PR1 Pro are using a resin body shell with aluminium cover, a 13.2mm planar magnetic driver with a sensitive 16 ohm impedance and 100 dB sensitivity. They're also being supplied with memory foam tips and a braided silver cable, and pricing is around about the $81 mark. And next up, we also have the much more budget-friendly EDCX, which features a polycarbonate body shell with stainless steel trim and a single 10mm dynamic driver. The EDCX are apparently tuned to Harman, which KZ are calling a U-shaped tuning, and KZ seem to be really sassy in their blurb for the EDCX, seemingly calling out other earphone manufacturers and perhaps even their own customer base. In their product images, KZ say the following: "Hi-Fi should not be defined by price. EDCX is intended to correct two hot and almost useless product gimmicks in hi-fi circle, which are respected by a number of so-called well-known brands." Shots fired, I guess. And they continue on with, "It alludes to two selling points that are almost useless or even deviate from the original design principles of earphones," whatever those original design principles are, "which are recognized by these so-called high-end brands and high-end products in the circle, and are being vigorously promoted by the so-called professional public KOL, which means key opinion leaders." So they're saying that the EDCX is intended to counter this useless thing that they think all the other Okay, KZ, you're clearly on one. I get it. You've thrown your shade. So what are these two useless gimmicks that you're talking about? And are you going to get to the point anytime soon? So they go on to wax a load of marketing spiel. One might say vigorously promote their own driver and how it competes with other so-called professional hi-fi dynamic IEMs, but not before being further passive-aggressive by calling the driver controversial and saying instead of using the so-called fancy diaphragm material, we use the most common 6 microns thick PET diaphragm. So in other words, just an ordinary, regular dynamic driver with no special diaphragm coating. The whole blurb is loaded full of this passive-aggressive language, but clearly, one of the 2 points of complaint that KZ are alluding to are these various different diaphragm coatings that are commonplace on earphones these days, like the carbon nanotube and the DLC types, which KZ apparently believes to be useless. Well, KZ are trying to build this earphone to a price point, so I would say, of course, that they're not going to put that kind of driver in the EDCX. And maybe they have a point. It might be debatable how useful those diaphragm coatings actually are, but here they are coming out snarling like an angry chihuahua picking a fight with a Rottweiler. Look, maybe KZ can build a driver that competes with so-called professional hi-fi dynamic IEMs for a fraction of the price without these so-called gimmicks. But oh my god, what's with this attitude? Then they go on to say that the EDCX is the same U-shaped tuning as those high-end products. What high-end products? Those high-end products, just those. Presumably with just some kind of hand wave like this at the general market of earphones. I don't know. U-shaped tuning is a style recognized by many hi-fi enthusiasts in recent years, and its main feature is that it tends to follow the Harman curve. The tuning of the EDCX is also adjusted in this direction. Okay, so you've tuned it to Harman. Okay, I'm guessing this is the second of those 2 selling points that are almost useless, but here they are selling this tuning as a good thing, or at least it seems like they're selling this tuning as a good thing. So are they happy about this or not? Is this a selling point, or are they only tuning this to Harman begrudgingly, and now they're kind of salty about it? My brother in Christ, you tuned the earphones. I'm so confused at this point. This whole blurb reads like they are so insecure. I mean, we get it, KZ, we get it. You think that you can do better than the bigger brands at their own game and for less money. But here's some advice. Show, don't tell. If you put out a decent product with good tuning and, importantly, with all of its drivers wired up correctly, the online hype machine will do the rest. It really isn't hard to get audio nerds excited. Just make a good product. That's it. That's literally all you need to do. But KZ haven't stopped there. They then finish up their blurb with some more saltiness about the packaging. No luxurious packaging can fill the emptiness of the product itself. You didn't have to do them like that, whoever it is that you're throwing shade at. Or maybe it's KZ themselves that are making an empty product. We insist on using eco-friendly packaging with smaller volume and lighter weight. And that is commendable and all, but this is the standard KZ packaging, the same packaging that a lot of other Chi-Fi earphones come in. I'm sorry, I just can't get all excited about KZ being self-righteous about this, claiming that they're being environmentally friendly when this is the same packaging that they've been using and their competition have been using for years. Don't get me wrong, this is good. Keep doing it, but just ease up on this dogmatic passive aggressiveness. But I just can't. Just wow. So what do you think of all this KZ passive aggressiveness? Are they being a bit too salty, or do you think that they have a point? Make sure you leave that in a comment down below, and also leave a comment if you think there's any news that I might have missed or you think that I should cover. If you like this video, then hitting on that like button helps out the channel way more than you might realize, and subscribe if you want to see more from me, you want to see more news, you want to see my reviews when I post them. I will see you in the next video, and until next time, have a good one.